Fantasy Football Universe, welcome to another episode of the Devy Planet. I'm SC Romero with my co-host Spencer, and today we are getting into some Devy sleepers, but we also have a new segment that we're bringing to the Devy Planet. All of that right after the intro.
Welcome to the Devy Planet. The Devy Planet. The Devy Planet.
Welcome to the Devy Planet. I am SC Romero here with my co-host Spencer at Buckeye Sports. Spencer, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Glad to be here on this fine Wednesday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Happy 4th to all those, or happy 4th weekend, almost close. Hopefully y'all are able to enjoy that, some time with family, some time to relax. Before we get into the 4th, though, we're gonna bring in some sleepers that we feel, whether it be the consensus or just within our own Devies that we're looking at, that people are just sleeping on, that you can get an excellent value right now and really benefit in the future potentially. But as I mentioned, we're gonna have a new segment. We're gonna start bringing some Devy news, so some things happening around the Devy community that can really impact the Devy community or your Devy leagues, even C2C leagues, in that matters. So, without further ado, let's break into the Devy news. Now, first off is the Pac-12 is coming back, and right now it looks like if you have the name state in your university, you're automatically a Pac-12 team, because Texas State is joining the Pac-12, and they're joining Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Utah State. I mean, if Arizona State didn't win the Big 12 or look so great last year, they might be joining as well. So any thoughts on that? With just Texas State join or the Pac-12 kind of reforming after it was kind of just dismantled a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's weird. Like, the Pac-12 is coming back to its former glory. I mean, I think they're trying to make, the P4 into a P5, but it still's got ways to go. But it's good to see, the college football is better when there's more intrigue, better conferences, and, with the NIL, maybe we could see them, start to re-up in terms of strength, but they still have ways to go, I think. Texas State is going to be interesting, though. I think they have a chance to be competitive in here. I still think. I mean, before I say, who do you think is going to win this conference?
Well, I like he said they're trying to bring out the Power 5 again. I don't know if this conference becomes a Power 5. It's going to be more of a G6 instead of a Power 5, a group of 6, And looking at it off the top, Texas State is very competitive. Where they were at, I believe were they at the Sun Belt, if I'm not mistaken? Could be wrong. But they were very competitive where their team was. They've always been a great university. Had some friends that went to Texas State. So it's awesome to see them going into the Pac-12 or being a part of that as well. Oregon State looks very good. They had a strong running game, last year, and I think they're going to continue that this year. You can't count out Boise State. I know they lost Austin Genty, but Seth Gaines is still there. He's going to be really good for them. Utah State has some very under-the-radar players, also a very strong defense. If I'm looking at this right now and picking my team to win it, I would have to say probably Utah State out of it. Colorado State lost some playmakers, so I need to see more in depth on what they're going to be about. But my runner-up would probably be Boise State or Oregon State when it comes to it. Washington State's also, but with them losing their OC and then also losing their quarterback, it'll be interesting to see what they can do as well. But I'd probably say Utah State right now. Do you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would go those three that you mentioned: Oregon State, Boise State, and Utah State are all really tightly grouped for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I lean Boise right now. Just got to give them the credit. But Oregon State is probably my, like, if I was feeling the most confident about an answer, I think Oregon State. Right. That running game is really good. Hankerson is probably not an NFL asset, but he's a really good college running back, and he did a lot of great for them last year. So
for sure.
I talked myself into it. Oregon State it is.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, and I'm glad you said that too with Hankerson, because he's a great C2C asset just to have on your college team. As far as a Devy asset, not so much. Again, deeper leagues maybe, but it's still not so much. He could probably get to NFL, but it might be on backup, and maybe he'll see the field there. Next, Jeremiah Exactly. But sometimes it works out. So, hopefully it works out for him. Jeremiah Smith hates Michigan. Like, he is someone that, per on three, Jeremiah Smith promises to never lose to Michigan again at Ohio State. That's a very bold promise. I guarantee you, Michigan, not only fans, but the players saw that. He said, I just hate them. Just something about them for the next 2 years. I promise you, I will not lose to them. I can't lose to them in the next 2 years. Does he hold on that promise, or is it broken promises that he speaks?
He might not break the promise, but Ryan Day doesn't have a great history of beating Michigan.
Fair,
so,
fair.
Listen, Ohio State clearly has a better roster at this point. Michigan has, Harborough has left kind of a hole in the recruiting, and honestly, the scheme last year looked a lot worse than it ever did under Harborough. So,
right.
But Michigan is still Michigan.
Yeah.
I still think that Ryan Day is going to lose. It's in his blood. He can't help it.
If Underwood comes out and is the guy that we expect him to be, not to mention Jordan Marshall, not to mention Justin Taines in the running game, not to mention they still have a strong defense. Ohio State looked great, but man, I think this is broken promises. I think over the next 2 years, they're going to lose. It's going to be a tie. They're going to win. Maybe they'll win this year, get the revenge game. But this next year, the following year, I think they may lose, man. So bold statement there from Jeremiah Smith. But, hey, you love it, man. That just builds the intensity there for us. So you love to see that there. Chris Descartes, man. Shout out to Chris Descartes, man. Shout out the guys at the Devy Dojo. We have a Devy League coming up that it's going to be the Devy Planet versus the Devy Dojo. So shout out the guys that repping the Devy Dojo, but it's going to be a fun competitive league. I'm excited to start that one there. Our next one is Finbon over at ESPN says Arch is the best college quarterback since Tim Tebow. Do you agree with that or disagree?
I have to disagree. I mean, it's right off face. I mean, so, Arch Manning hasn't done anything yet. I love Arch. I love him. But to say he's the best since Tebow, when we've had Trevor Lawrence, when we've had Justin Fields, when we've had some genuinely great Caleb. We've had some genuinely great college quarterbacks since Tim Tebow.
100%.
I think Cam Newton.
There
we go. There we go.
Straight up though.
Arch first he needs to prove that he's as good as people say he is, and then he can arrive. Tim Tebow, he gets a lot of flack, but he was an elite college quarterback.
Arguably the best. I mean, our guy Chris brought Cam Newton apparently too. But Tim Tebow, arguably one of the best college quarterbacks ever to play the game. NFL, that's a whole different story. But when he was in college, man, he definitely rolled Florida around and made them do some big things there. Now, saying he's the best since Tebow, again, like you said, we haven't seen much from Arch. And the times we have, it was either against not the best competition. It was like, who'd you really play? And again, when he came in, I bring this up all the time. When he came in for Ewers against Georgia, he didn't improve the offense so much that they brought back Quinn Ewers in that game. So is he the best? Again, I don't know. For this season, I asked everyone that's watching, for this season, when you're looking at Arch Manning, just look at Arch. Don't look at Manning. Just look at his name as Arch and see if you feel the same way in certain things and you're not using the name value to his whole. Definitely some great value in Devy communities, but time will tell, man. SEC is very tricky, and at any time, the top can fall off in a blink, So possibly that's it for Texas. We'll see. Now, Jake Retzlaff, the transfer, or I guess I should say the transfer now, at BYU had some interesting things happen. Spencer, you want to go into detail on that?
Sure. So I'll put my my lawyer hat. For those of you that don't know, JD, I'm Esquire, bar certified attorney.
There you go.
So he had a civil suit brought against him for sexual assault, which is always it's a highly serious allegation. Mm-hmm. It's something that it was brought by a Jane Doe, which lends it credibility, that sort of thing. And the case has since been dismissed. It was dropped on merit of evidence, which in these sexual assault cases can mean just quite simply like it was a he said she said, and there just wasn't enough backing circumstances to prove anything happened.
Right.
Now, so the case itself is gone, most likely. It was voluntarily withdrawn. She could still bring it back up, to be clear. But more often than not, when these things are voluntarily withdrawn on the merits, there isn't, they came with their best case. There usually isn't more. Now, the reason why it matters is his defense to the case when he levied it was that it was a consensual incident, which wouldn't matter at almost any other school in America, except he goes to BYU. And BYU has a morality clause for their athletes that they won't engage in premarital sex, they won't engage in, sort of immoral behaviors, and it's extremely strict. So by levying his defense against the case against him, he was facing a 7-game suspension, and he's in his last year. So, that's, you might be wondering, well, why is he transferring? Why he transferred immediately? It doesn't seem, it's because he's facing a suspension no matter what. And it's going to be 7 games from within the school. It's not coming from the NCAA. So what does this mean for Retzlaff? I mean, we're pretty late into the transfer cycle. I don't know that there's a lot of openings for him to start day one. So, I mean, I guess the question then becomes, he has to go somewhere else. He's got to start day one, or this is all moot. Why bother transferring? He should just wait it out. Is there any spot that you see that you think could be a good fit for him, or do you think he's just in limbo now?
Man, so I've been trying to look at different things. It's you gotta watch out for the rumors and the fake news, I guess you could say, because I saw Baylor and I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. Sorry, Robertson's there. That wasn't true. Baylor will be interesting. It's not happening. I saw Utah, like he has the chance to do the funniest thing and just go over to Utah. But it's as far as a place right now, I mean, if we're looking at like the Pac-12, I mean, I think that might be an option. It possibly going to a Texas State or even an Oregon State and saying, hey, I'm just going to step in, because at this point it's very hard, because I don't think he's going to start in a P4. I'm trying to think off the top of like teams that don't really have an established quarterback. I mean, I feel a lot of people are right and set in what they're getting in for this next season. So he has to go in guns blazing and really beat out that competition just so, hey, I am the guy, which he has the tape to prove it, but he has to go into a system and say, hey, I can manage this system and lead that team. So, I think a Pac-12 team type is possible for him. I don't see him going to the Baylor. I don't see him going to Utah, one of these bigger Big 12 type of teams. I don't think he's staying in the conference. I think he's definitely leaving out, and I don't see it necessarily being a P4, unfortunately. Now, with that, I don't think it would hurt his draft stock. I don't think it necessarily would hurt it as much, though, because he can still go in there and compete and do well, and that could definitely elevate. But, I think he might go down to a G5. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't really see a spot for him. This late into the season, he needs to be head and shoulders above whoever's in the room. And I think he's a talented kid. And I hope kind of everything settles and this ends up just being a misunderstanding. But so assuming all of that, I don't think he's so talented that he can step in and beat out whoever these teams have acquired, knowing the system already, having been with the team. I think he's going to struggle to take over. So I think you're right. G5 is going to be where he ends up.
Yeah.
And I could see Oregon State, Utah State, something of that nature. Just and hope for the best come the fall. But I think in terms of as a Devy asset, I do think that this probably takes him out in terms of rostering him. I think there was a chance for him to jump up. He was a sleeper, maybe a sneaky second-round pick potentially, but I don't really see an avenue for him to make that happen anymore.
And one of my guys was, Chase Roberts out of BYU. I need to go watch their other quarterbacks in that room now to really gauge how I feel. I still like Chase Roberts as a prospect, but if the quarterback play is down, that's definitely going to affect his value too. So more to come on that after I watch some more tape on their quarterbacks that they do have. But speaking of future, Matt Miller at ESPN dropped his way too early 2026 first-round mock. So we're going to dive into this on some certain players. We're not getting every player because not everyone's playing IDP. We'll just keep at that. Not everyone's playing IDP, so we won't go into details on some of them. But I do like some of the IDP, and I'm an IDP player myself, and you as well. I know you're my C2C IDP, the Devy Superstar. Shout out that league. Great league, fun league. Absolutely amazing. But Matt Miller's number one pick goes to the Cleveland Browns, and he says Kate Klubnik. Agree or disagree?
Oh, heavy agree. He's so safe to me right now. I could see Lenoir Sellers, but he's got something to prove. If I'm picking right now, Cade Klubnik he's just perfectly safe. You can trust your franchise with him, I think. And, I love seeing that. I think that was definitely notable. And the other quarterbacks weren't particularly close to him in this one.
Yeah. So let me rephrase that. Do you hate it or love it for Cade Klubnik going to Cleveland?
I love it. I like what they're doing there. They've got good weapons there. They got a good defense for him to work around.
Yeah.
He's not the most dynamic quarterback, but I think he would easily settle into a solid quarterback too with QB1 upside if touchdowns go his way.
For sure. And all you see Shadir's over here speeding and stuff, in his car, and it's like, bro, just play the game, man. If you're really about it, just go play the game. So we'll see it at Gabriel. I know Gabriel has a lot of slack, a little undersized, but he's also very accurate. So maybe he goes out there and shines, and maybe they end up passing on him, and maybe they go defense because there's some solid defenses. Number 2 is Miami offensive tackle Francis Maguao. I mispronounced that. Mauigoa, I think. Forgive me if I mispronounced that. Tennessee Titans, they actually go Clemson. TJ Parker, which I actually do like that. TJ Parker is a very, very nice asset to have in your IDP type of Devy leagues. He's going to be a big playmaker, and he's also going to be someone that's going to really elevate Clemson to, he might be the clutch player to make a big stop for them as well. And stop me if you want to talk about any of these IDP guys.
Sure, yeah.
But number 4, Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas goes to New York Jets. Absolutely love that. CJ Mosley's getting older. I don't even think CJ Mosley's on the team anymore. Anthony Hill Jr. could definitely fill in that role and just be one of their stud linebackers. Absolutely love seeing him in the top 5. Number 5, Caleb Downs out of Ohio State, safety out of New Orleans Saints. They need that. They desperately need that safety help, that secondary help. So that would be amazing for them as well. Number 6, Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson, another Clemson guy. You have 3 Clemson guys in the top 6, which is pretty amazing because I don't know. We do see one more Clemson guy now that I'm thinking about it. Now, number 7. So I've said it before on my other show on Mondays with the Devy Degens. Ruben Bain Jr., the edge out of Miami. He hasn't been number 7 to the Raiders. It would not surprise me if Ruben Bain is the number 1 overall pick. He is an absolute stud. He is a monster. I've been a fan of him since he's joined Miami. He is a playmaker and a game changer for defenses, and he will be interesting. If you put him across from Max Crosby, watch out. That's going to be a deadly defense. So I would love that, but I could see him going number 1 overall. Number 8, New England Patriots get. I'll let you talk about your guy here and how you feel about
Jordan Tyson. So this was when I saw this, I was like, oh, we got to talk about this mock draft. So Jordan Tyson in the top 10 and the first wide receiver off the board is something. I mean, when we had Matt on last week, he was like, I've never an Arizona State wide receiver. I've never even heard of this guy.
Right.
And I like this is going to start to put him on the map to get a little more mainstream. But if Jordan Tyson goes to the Patriots at 108, and there's some other players that go here, but I mean, you could make the case top 1 in your rookie drafts. I mean, a top 5 Devy asset overall. I mean, this is because he's going to be a clear-cut number 1 target for Drake May going forward. If this, obviously this is the way too early, but it's fun to think about. Like this could happen. If he gets paired with a Drake May or one of these young promising quarterbacks, I mean, he's going to be great.
This would be nice, and this will kill everyone's Kyle Williams shares, everyone's Jalen Polk shares, everyone's Pop Douglas shares. I mean, Diggs, he's if you have shares on him, you're probably trying to get rid of it. But that would be absolutely amazing. I think if that happens, I mean, I know a lot of Patriot fans, yourself included, that'll be through the moon if that happens. And you're a Giants fan, not a Patriots fan. You're a Giants fan.
That hurt.
Sorry about that. You're a Giants fan. But hey, the Giants beat them twice, so that's good.
That's all right. I'll get you back later in the show. Later in the show.
Yeah, there's going to be some interesting conversation later, so make sure you're tuning in there. Number 9, the Los Angeles Rams go Caden Proctor, offensive tackle from Alabama. Seattle Seahawks at number 10 go Spencer Fanu, offensive tackle out of Utah. Indianapolis Colts, this one's a good one. Quarterback Garrett Nussmeier to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, this really depends on what happens with Anthony Richardson. Danny Dimes, I know everyone, he signed a $14 million contract. I know he's going to be their potential guy. If Anthony Richardson is healthy, Daniel Jones is not seeing the field. But Daniel Jones is a solid backup. He also gets hurt too, so maybe it's Riley Leonard. I don't know. But either way, if Anthony Richardson comes out and shows out and becomes the guy that we thought he would become, this isn't happening. But if not, this is an absolutely brilliant pick. What do you think about Garrett Nussmeier to the Colts?
So I mean, I think that'd be a great fit for him. You got a safety blanket tight end in Warren, who can do stuff after the catch. You got great wide receivers outside, solid O line, good running game. It's what he needs, because to me, Garrett Nussmeier is a guy who he's going to need a little bit of support around him.
For sure.
He's
not Burrow.
Yeah, as I've been sort of scouted more and more, I've lost a little faith in the player. Okay. And honestly, part of it was I just didn't realize how old he was.
Yeah.
Because he's 23 and a half years old. He's going to be 24 come draft season. Yeah. He's going to have to get in and start right away and show out. Or, we're looking at 25, 26. He's going to start losing value in your leagues.
Right.
So
yeah, because if he doesn't show out, you get those old quarterbacks. You might as well cash out when you can.
Yeah. And, not that he, 25 isn't the end of the world. Tyler Shuck is just starting.
Right. but he's probably not going to do much.
Exactly. So, to me, Nuss, this is aggressive for Nuss, but I like the fit a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you think about the AFC South, he's definitely not going to Texas. He's definitely not going to Jacksonville. Jacksonville, maybe. That's actually thinking about. I mean, Trevor Lawrence doesn't show it. Maybe it is Nuss. Colts another one, and then the Titans, they just got Cam Ward. So, potentially, and they have field stretchers, and he knows how to, throw the ball deep. So it really could be a solid fit for him there as well. Now, number 12 is Cleveland again with Caleb Lamo out of Utah, offensive tackle. And this was a trade from Jacksonville, actually. That's how they get this pick. Dallas Cowboys get edge from Auburn, Kildrick Falk. Arizona Cardinals get your guy here, and Antonio Williams out of Clemson. How would you feel about that, knowing they have Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, and Kyler Murray potentially as their quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like it. This is one of those picks. It'd be like I honestly thought Emeka Egbuka had a good shot to go to the Cardinals, and I was surprised that they kept passing up wide receiver. Antonio Williams would be a perfect fit. He could slot in underneath with Trey McBride. Marv goes deep. It'd be a good fit. His ceiling would be capped, and that would be unfortunate. But I definitely wouldn't hate the fit. Chris, I am ruling out the rattlesnake.
I'm trying to get him over Shuck, to be honest. I just think lesser value, and I don't have to believe it sucks. So I'm with you, Chris, on that one. But I agree too. It could go either way. Now, Antonio Williams, I agree that could be very good, especially with them passing on Egbuka, or the wide receivers really heavy last year. This could be really good for him to go out there, and they need that. Especially Michael Wilson's not a bad wide receiver, but he's not anything to go home about, right? I mean, you could have him in your leagues as a great bye week starter, but other than that, Antonio Williams would be a great slot and definitely a good asset to open up Marvin Harrison even more. Miami Dolphins go Jermall McCoy, quarterback from Tennessee. Pittsburgh Steelers, they get Lenoris Sellers out of South Carolina. Now, earlier in the show, you did say you can see Lenoris Sellers as the 101, so Pittsburgh getting him at 16. Do you like this, or is it not your favorite?
This wouldn't be my favorite spot for him, simply because at this point, unfortunately, I don't really trust the Steelers anymore. Yeah, from a developmental standpoint. I think that they kind of fumbled with Justin Fields. I think he fit perfectly in that system with Tomlin.
Yeah.
And he looked really good, and I think they fumbled that. And Sellers is going to be probably a similar type of player at the next level in terms of legs first. He's got to get the arm up to speed, but he has the arm strength to make it work. So I wouldn't, and they don't have a lot of weapons. They got DK, sure, but outside of that, it's
Johnny.
Oh, yeah, Johnny. Yeah. Just who I want as my number 2 option in an offense.
Right.
But at the end of the day, getting first round, he's first round quarterback. I love to see that. I like to see that the national media is kind of up there with us, that he's a first round quarterback, and third quarterback off the board is pretty good.
Right. And being there, I mean, I feel like if they take Lenoris Sellers, it's like they want to get their own Lamar Jackson. Not Lenoris Sellers but they want to get that dual threat type of quarterback. Again, I agree with you. They had Justin Fields there. I don't know why they necessarily let him go. But Sellers has to jump up a lot for him to pop off as that first-round type of draft pick, because I don't think he's shown a lot of flaws, in my opinion. I do like him as a prospect, but he needs to tighten up some areas there as well. Now, number 17, the Chicago Bears get Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. Love or hate that?
I love it. I think, Ben Johnson gets his Jahmyr Gibbs. That's who everybody's comparing Jeremiah Love to. He's Jahmyr Gibbs light. The similar kind of player, has the same speed. I will give him that. He accelerates the same way. He takes off the same way, but Gibbs is a better, more well-rounded running back than Love is. But I would love this. I mean, we've Ben Johnson knows how to use this type of player. So yeah. No pun intended. What about you? You loving Love to?
I think I'll need to see what the offense is with Ben Johnson here. Because especially with all the weapons they have, DeAndre Swift wasn't bad last year, and I don't know if that's gonna be the move for them. I feel Ben Johnson. I don't know if he'll be as aggressive to go out there and get a Jeremiah Love when he could possibly get Darius Taylor in the next round or something like that, right? So it'll be interesting with Caleb Williams at the helm. I don't know if I love this so much. I understand it, especially if he's the RB1 in the class, but I need to see what the offense looks like under Ben Johnson. It was set up great for him at Detroit. Now it's his own. He's bringing in his own team and everything, so it's gonna be interesting to see what he says with all the weapons and what Caleb Williams can do there as well. Now, 18 Minnesota Vikings get Tim Keenan, defensive tackle out of Alabama. Green Bay Packers get edge Alabama out of LT Overton. Denver Broncos actually get tight end out of Vanderbilt, Eli Stowers. Now they just got Evan Ingram. This was an interesting because I know Eli Stowers is a sleeper. He's a lot of people's favorite to be the tight end one out of Vanderbilt. This would be an interesting pick. I don't know how I really feel about this. Sean Payton's tricky though, but this will be something I think it depends on what Evan Ingram really shows out if they go out there and get first round tight end. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I thought Matt Miller reached here. Respectfully. Sure. I like Eli Stowers too, but he's a little undersized. I know we're thinking the Joker role, but you still have to be a good, well-rounded football player to get a first round pick.
Right.
I don't know that Stowers is well-rounded like that. I don't know that he's that much of a difference maker to be a first rounder, but what it is good is if you're looking in the Devy League and you're looking, we talk about how tight ends are few and far between that you want to roster, keep an eye on Eli Stowers because that first round tight end, if he consistently stays here in these mocks, he's performing, that's the type of tight end that you want to roster. So keep an eye. I mean, this is a good sign. And if you can get ahead of that, then you're hitting Devy gold because otherwise you're going to have to draft that player in their rookie draft.
For sure. I 100% agree with that because that's going to be a game changer there. But it'll be right now, I don't know if I see a tight end in the first round. Think about it. I think we had a great tight end class this past year. I don't think it's as heavy this year, so it'll be interesting. Top 20, that's very spicy to me as well. Now, number 21, Houston Texans get Austin Barber, offensive tackle out of Florida. Tampa Bay Buccaneers get Patrick Payton, edge out of LSU. Now, Patrick Payton is also a monster at Florida State. He was a prime reason why there was a lot of stops at Florida State because of how aggressive he is off the edge. Ruben Bain, I feel, is stronger and faster. But Patrick Payton is a little bit more finesse when it comes to coming off the edge, just attacking the quarterback. So I absolutely love this pick as well. Reminded me that, snap, he did transfer to LSU. I forgot about that, honestly. And I was like, wait, he really did? This is going to be what LSU needs to really step up their defense where I feel they struggled a lot last year. Do you like that pick or?
Yeah, I think, it was interesting because he was mocked in the top 10 last year at a really down year. Really down year. So he's got to bounce back, but I do love it because the raw player, the athlete and the production before last year was all excellent. So, I do love it. I think it's a good system for it to fit in. LSU tends to highlight these players really well.
And if he balls out at LSU, that's SEC over ACC. That's going to be a huge win for him. Now, San Francisco 49ers pick up Isaiah World out of Oregon, which is great, offensive tackle. Cincinnati Bengals pick up Avian Terrell out of Clemson, quarterback. So another one. That's, 5 now Clemson players? So Clemson's coming with the heat. Washington Commanders get A.J. Harris out of Penn State, cornerback. Los Angeles Chargers get C.J. Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. Los Angeles Rams, here's a good one. Drew Aller out of Penn State. I actually like that. Yeah, I think Drew Aller, assuming Matt Stafford is there again for another season, this could really be the next to Matt Stafford. Now, Matt Stafford, I think he was the 101, if I'm not mistaken. He was the number 1 overall pick. But Drew Aller, if he goes in there and learns from Matt Stafford, that would be absolutely phenomenal for him. So I think that would be a great, great fit for Drew Aller.
Yeah, no, I love it. No, because he's the type of guy he's going to have to wait a little bit. He's going to have to, I think Aller needs he's going to need a year to get his feet underneath him, and behind Matt Stafford's a perfect place to do it. So yeah, I love it.
Talk about a strong physical quarterback. That's Matt Stafford. That's something Aller can be as well. Baltimore Ravens get D'Angelo Pons, cornerback out of Indiana. Detroit Lions get Tyreek Sapp, edge rusher out of Florida. And Kansas City gets Dylan Thiemann out of Oregon, safety. This is going to be a steal pick. They need secondary help. Dylan Thiemann will absolutely be a stud. He's a transfer over at Oregon. Absolutely. I'm excited to see what he can do there at that next level as well. Now, 31, Philadelphia Eagles get Denzel Boston out of Washington. How do you feel about that? Because I know you're pretty high on Denzel Boston, but going to Philly, I mean, that's – is he getting playing time?
No. He'll be the wide receiver 3 for whatever that's worth. This to me almost screams that they're anticipating. They just wanted to get Denzel's name in there. Yeah. Right. Because Philly's not a great fit, I think, but he wanted to get Denzel Boston in the first round. Fair. They have been talking about they need a wide receiver 3, but I don't know that they really need a wide receiver 3. You saw what they just did. Yeah. They're chilling. They're fine. The Eagles 100%. Don't need Denzel Boston. They don't need more. Get them less.
Right, for sure. I'm
crying over here.
You're hurting our fantasy communities drafted all these wide receivers and not giving them time. And it's not like they have old receivers. They have young receivers too. A.J. Brown's hitting that prime years. Devontae Smith is in those great years too. I mean, they have Saquon Barkley, but it's I don't see it. Now, if they go out and get Jeremiah Love to back up Saquon, that would be crazy. That would be absolutely. I think that would be insane because if you're saying, all right, you're the next guy up, right? So, I don't think that's happening. We can dream. Now, Buffalo Bills ended with Jake Slaughter, the center out of Florida. Interesting mock. We'll actually do our own mock draft as well as just our first round. But that's very interesting. I like some of the picks. I think some of them are a little spicy. Some of them I absolutely love. So it's very interesting to see what they're doing there. Now, as we talked about in this episode, we're going to go over some Devy sleepers for y'all and go over guys that we think the community is sleeping on heavily and where you can get some excellent value. Now, this is a quarterback that I've said multiple times on this show, on multiple shows that I've been on. I've been saying this all the time, but Pittsburgh quarterback Eli Holstein is a guy you want. He reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger. That's the comp I'm giving him. 6'4", 225, ran for 328 yards. Expect probably over 3,000 yards this season. I think he got banged up last year. A shoulder injury that hurt him. And when he came back, it wasn't the best. But when he was there, he was on fire. He is losing one of his top weapons in Gavin Bartholomew, but Jake Overman will step up and be that tight end for him. He lost his top receiving threat in Kanansa Mumfield, but he's keeping the next 3 wide receivers on his team. So we're going to see some big parts from him, from Kelly Johnson, from Rafael Williams, Sensor Lee, and not to mention one of his running backs is actually a sleeper. We're not talking about him today, but Desmond Reed is actually a pretty good gadget back for them in the backfield of Pittsburgh. It is set up for Eli to be a Devy riser and a draft riser. I'm stoked to see him, and I think he's going to do great things. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Eli Holstein is. I also love him. He's got a strong arm. He's got great pocket presence. He was good last year. As you said, that injury really derailed his season. I think he was on a way to a great season, and then he never quite got back. Right. And he had that horrible game versus Syracuse. I think he threw 6 of however many picks he had. I think he threw all 6 in that game. It was brutal. He just wasn't ready. He wasn't healthy, and it hurt him. So I'm looking forward to another, a healthy year. He's got a good system there. He's another year in. I definitely see him as a sleeper. He's got something to prove, and I think he's going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And, if Kenny Pickett could get first-round capital off of one play, Eli Stolston could definitely get first-round capital for just being a better quarterback than what Kenny Pickett was, in my opinion. Yeah. Now, number 2 quarterback, this is one of your guys, Iowa State's quarterback, Rocco Becht. Talk to us a little bit about Rocco.
Yeah, so Rocco Becht, and sorry, I lost my stats here on him, but so Rocco Becht out of Iowa State had a great year last year, if I can pull up the numbers.
No, you're good. 2 great wide receivers there with him, right? And Higgins and Jalen Noel.
Yeah, 2 great wide receivers that he helped support. He had 3,505 yards, 25 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He had a 70 QBR, which is right in, 69.4, so just below that 70 threshold. Right. And he did it. It was pretty similar to his year before, just a very good solid quarterback. But what I really like about him is he's got some moxie to him. You know, he makes some throws downfield. You saw it when he was throwing to Jalen Noel, that he just was able to get it downfield, put it right in between two safeties converging. And that type of arm talent, that type of accuracy, I kind of love to see it. He was definitely not quite where you want to be. He was at a 59.4% completion rate. That type of stuff is not ideal. But I do think he's got some tools that he could step up. He's got a great wide receiver in Chase Sowell coming in this year, I think.
Yep. ECU, yes, sir.
Yeah, and he also offers a little with his legs. 318 yards on the ground with 8 touchdowns last year. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider sacks take away some of that yardage, that's a pretty good runner. So he'll offer a little with his legs. He's got a decent arm. He airs it out. He's not afraid to go downfield.
Right.
I think there's a little something here. Do I think he's going to be a superstar? No, but I think he's got NFL traits, and if he breaks out, look out. Yeah. What do you think of Rocco Becht?
Right now, I would have him as a day 3 quarterback, but if Tyler Shook went in the second round, if Dylan Gabriel went in third, I think it's possible for him to sneak into the second, assuming he has a great season than what he's had before. Just like you said, has that breakout type of year. Adding Chase Sowell is definitely gonna help, especially after losing your 2 prime weapons. It's gonna be interesting to see what he does. Now, these are the type of quarterbacks where it's like, did the wide receivers make you good? Or did you make the wide receivers great, good at that point as well? Because Jay Sowell is not Jaden Higgins. I do think he could be that type of player that Higgins was for them. But I'm excited to see what Rocco Becht could do by himself necessarily without those 2 top wide receivers and how he's really going to address the situation, because I think that's really going to tell a lot on his tape alone, especially if they come out blazing again. He's been with them and they've been good. So it'll be interesting to see. I like his arm talent. I like his pocket presence, just his confidence in the pocket. He doesn't really phase when the pressure's coming, anything like that. So I do like him as a deep Devy asset, but I do think he's a day 3 type of quarterback, and you're going to want to hope that he gets some playing time, because he is someone that, if he does get that, he may not give it back as well. So good pick there. This next guy here, shout out our guys at the Devy Dojo again, because this is actually one that our guy Dustin, the Empire Elite FF, put on the map for me, and that's Iowa's transfer quarterback, Mark Gronowski, transfers from South Dakota State. He's a winner. He won back-to-back national championships with South Dakota State. Again, one of your older type of quarterbacks, but he is really nice. Since his freshman season, he has ran for over 380 yards in each season. He's consistently getting better, has 37 rushing touchdowns within that span as well. 4 years at South Dakota State, But he is going to be something great. Now, Iowa did lose Luke Lachey, right? But his backup, Addison or Ostrenga, will be good. They lost Caleb Johnson. Why I'm excited about this is because he's really going into a spot where it's like the weapons may be kind of mute at this point. Sophomore running back Kamari Moten's looking to possibly take over the reins of what Caleb Johnson did. He's not as big as Caleb Johnson, though. So this may be a prime opportunity for him to come out and say, look, I am a winning quarterback. It doesn't matter if it's the FCS, the FBS, the NFL, the S, whatever letters you will put together. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm a winning quarterback, and I can go out there and do it. Does he make them a national contender? No. But I think he makes them a team that you're watching for in these Big Ten type of matchups that he could possibly lead to an upset. I'm excited to see what he can do. Jumping up from the FCS, from South Dakota State over to Iowa, that's a big jump in my opinion. And it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do. But I think the talent is there. And again, shout out my guy Dustin at Empire Elite FF and the Devy Dojo, because go watch his tape. It's actually pretty nice to watch. Do you have any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think, I had to watch the tape on him because I hadn't seen, anything really about him.
Yeah.
And he definitely has nice traits. He is pretty mobile. He's got a solid arm. He, is able to hit his guys in stride, which is nice. But I'm a little worried about Iowa being his spot, just simply because that system does not like to air it out. Even when their running game isn't working, they're a defense first team.
Right.
But that said, they have some good weapons. I think Vanderoos is their wide receiver there, who he looked pretty solid at times last year. So maybe they just need a quarterback who can actually unlock what they have, and maybe Gronowski is that guy.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical, but I definitely love the name. He's definitely one to watch. And at the worst, I think if you're in C2Cs, I think he's going to be a good college asset because he is going to run. He's going to find the end zone with his legs. So
100%.
Definitely worth it for that point, at least.
100% for the college, the C2C league. I agree with that. Now, our next quarterback and our last quarterback here is actually going to be transferred from Boston College, Florida State quarterback Tommy Castellanos. Now, this is an interesting quarterback simply because Florida State, I mean, we just talked about the Pac-12 getting all the state teams. If Florida State continues on the trajectory that they've been on lately, outside of when they had, I'm drawing a blank, the quarterback that got hurt, that got drafted by the Jets.
Travis.
Was it Travis? Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis. Yeah, Jordan Travis.
So after that, it kind of just went all downhill. So hopefully Castellanos can go in there and change over the program. If not, they may be on their boots to the Pac-12. Who knows? But what are your thoughts on Tommy here? Because he's your sleeper.
Yeah, so Tommy is definitely a sleeper. So he's 5'9", 196. So let's start there. He's way undersized. I'm hoping that he doesn't come in 5'8", 170, which is what I'm worried about. Sure. But I think he's a true 5'9", 5'10", 196, 200 pounds.
Right.
So last year was up and down. Bill O'Brien really didn't know how to use him. I don't think they ever fully got along. So he was benched. Really, he left halfway through the season. He just said, I'm hurt. I got replaced. I'm kind of done here, which is a red flag. But so last year was 1,366 yards at 8.5 average per completion, 18 touchdowns, and a pretty sparkly 163.4 passer rating. Right. So that's something that he's not known for being a passer, and he was pretty accurate last year. He's known for being a rusher, and that's where it was rough. 93 carries for 194 yards. That's 2 yards a carry, only 1 touchdown on the ground. Right. Something wasn't right, though. I mean, I'm telling you, because the year before, 215 carries, 1,113 yards, and 13 touchdowns.
Right.
I mean, those aren't the same guys. And I think Bill O'Brien didn't know how to use a guy like this to the best of his ability. But what I do think when I saw, I watched a lot of Tommy last year. I watched a lot of BC football being in the Northeast here.
Yeah.
He looked much better as a passer. And, I almost like baby Kyler, where he's moving around, he's twitchy, he's good at avoiding pressure. He's got good enough of an arm that he can get it downfield. He's accurate in the short area. Right. Now, again, that size is going to hold him back for sure. But picture this, he brings Florida State back to national contention, and he keeps the passer gains while coming back as a rusher.
Right.
I think you have a very legitimate statistical case that he's worth being drafted. Simply because he's a great athlete. He was the best rusher in all of college football by every advanced metric in 2023. I mean, that's a special trait of his that I hope he can bring back. That's why he's a sleeper, though, because if he doesn't bring it back, I mean, you're just looking at a college guy. Yeah. And that would be, so we'll see. We'll see who the true Tommy is. I really believe in Tommy. I know that size is going to hold him back, though. He's never going to be your top 10 pick. They tried it with Bryce Young. It didn't work.
Right. For sure. No, I mean, the ACC, he has weapons around him to have some success, right? We talked about Usman Kruma here before. They transferred Deuce Robinson over there. They have some weapons there for him. And if he does become that dual threat, again, NFL, in my opinion, NFL GMs, coaches, sometimes they look at what the person does record-wise without just seeing the tape. That's my opinion. I know they watch the tape. But if he goes out there and loses one game, maybe 2 games, but at least gets Florida State, like you said, not to say that's so contention, but playoff contention.
Yeah.
You're talking about a quarterback that is going to rise the boards, because if he goes and turns that program around within a year, that's going to be big. But he would actually step into that 2023 for him to make it happen. Is it possible? I think the weapons there are way better than what he had at Boston College. So he just has to go out there and be healthy and really just play ball and just enjoy it. And I think that's going to be the bottom line in his situation, because once he starts to get uncomfortable, that's where we see that downfall for him as well. So it'll be big for him. Now, our next guy, we're going to head into some running backs here. This is a guy that I've been beating the table on, and I'm going to continue to say, because I do think he's still a sleeper. And what I'm seeing in Devy mocks, at least, that is Missouri's running back, Ahmad Hardy. Now, he's transferred out of Louisiana Monroe, if I'm not mistaken. Now he's 5'10", 205, so just that solid build for him. I know I compared him in our show with the Devy Dojo guys. with Buckeye Hughes, and I'm falling more in love with Ahmad Hardy than I am with Buckeye Hughes, and I'm an Oregon guy as well. But Ahmad Hardy has the speed, has a solid vision. Again, last year as a true freshman, just over 1,000 yards, 5.7 yards per carry, ends up transferred to an SEC school. Now Missouri isn't the best SEC school. They have a very shaky line. It's going to be hard for him to really make some moves. But that's where I think he could shine more. But if he goes out there and has, I don't necessarily think he has to have 1,000-yard season, but if he puts up 800, 900 yards behind that O-line that Missouri has, that's going to be a remarkable season for him, considering he's a true sophomore now and what he could do. So I'm stoked to see Ahmad Hardy in the SEC. I think right now he's an excellent value. I mean, I had a supplemental draft now, and he's still on the board, and we're around 8, I think. I joined it late as an orphan that I picked up. I joined in round 5. It's a supplemental with rookies there. So it's just see that he's still dropping. I'm stoked to get him and pick him up because I think he's definitely a value there. What are your thoughts on Hardy?
I love Ahmad Hardy. You definitely like him more than I do, but I see everything you're seeing. He's got good speed. He really has solid vision at the front line, and he's a tough runner. I mean, there's lots of like that it's a steep jump in competition to go from a G5 school to the SEC. Right. Especially going to a school like Missouri that isn't the best in the SEC. So he's
right.
But I mean, they held up last year. I think they had 5 SEC wins. So maybe they're not as good as we're giving them credit for.
Yeah.
But they're I think he's definitely worth a shot, and I love that you keep beating the drum because he does need to be talked about more. He is a legitimate asset.
So we do our final rankings. I might make it spicy. But let's go on to your first guy here at running back. This is going to be Virginia Tech's running back, Terio Stewart. Now, this kid is a fifth-year senior, about 5'9", 220. But what are your thoughts here when we're thinking about Terio Stewart out of Virginia Tech? Are you a big fan of him, or is it something that you're starting to kind of gauge into what he can do and what he could become there as well?
Yeah, I mean, I am a big fan of him as a pure runner. I mean, he's so we're talking like a 220. He's a bowling ball, and he's never really he's had some health issues. He's never really carried a full load while staying healthy, so that's a little concerning. But he was PFF's highest graded rusher in 2023, and last year on 166 carries, 898 yards, 5.4 a carry, and 6 touchdowns. And that was his lowest yards per carry of his whole career.
Right.
So and then that was partially due to the injury. Now, I said pure rusher. That's because I don't think we've ever really seen him receive. Mm-hmm. He has, 5 career receptions over 4 years.
Yeah.
The fans that are sitting behind the field goals, they have more receptions than he does in his whole time in college. But he's a very tough physical runner between the tackles. He really moves a pile. He's got great vision, and now he's moving up, ACC, filling the Bayshall Tootin role over there at Virginia Tech. Very different runner. He's not fast. Right. He doesn't have breakaway speed, but he can power a pile. And I think he's going to fit really well in that offense. And he's so good at running, a team will pick him up. It's almost a little Devin Singletary-like.
Yeah, he has the size to be a workhorse back. 5'9", 220, that's a pretty solid size there. And he really shows a quick burst within those 5 or 10 yards, like just to get to the holes, to make that impact play. But on top of that, he has a second gear where he can beat those defenders as well. So he's not one of your typical bigger guys that's a little slower. He has that home run kind of speed to make it. Now, like you mentioned, that health is a concern, but he is a fifth-year senior. So in my opinion, his IQ for the game is a little bit smarter. He understands what he needs to do. He's a patient runner and doesn't really attack right away. He sees it open, but when he attacks, it's with velocity and it's with aggression, just going straight into those holes there. So I'm excited to see what he could do. I think for him, it might be more of a C2C asset, but again, deeper leagues, he might be someone you want to take a shot on because he could be that bowling ball type of back. I mean, Charles Brooks, I absolutely loved. He went later in the NFL draft, but still, I drafted him everywhere I could because I think there's opportunity there because of his size alone and being that pure workhorse there for him.
Yeah.
Now, our next one, we talked about Ratcliffe earlier, transferred out of BYU. One guy that hasn't transferred out of BYU is running back LJ Martin. Now, the more I'm watching him, the more I'm liking him as well. Now, we just said Terio Stewart's 5'9", 220. LJ Martin, 6'2", 225. In 2 seasons of BYU, he's had over 1,145 yards. Of that, 748 yards have came after contact. Let me repeat that real quick. In 2 seasons at BYU, 1,145 yards rushing. Of those, 748 have came after contact, 62 missed tackles forced. He is very patient. He waits for the holes, has great vision. His downfall, last season he did have 3 fumbles. So that is scary because you don't like to see that. But if he gets that under control, I think LJ Martin's a running back we could be talking about in the future as a top running back that we're looking to draft. What do you think about him?
I think so. LJ Martin's interesting because he looks really good, but he also looks really tall.
Yeah.
He needs to work on lowering his pad levels. To me, he runs upright, and at 6'2", you have to be running like you're pretending to be 5'6", because you got to get the power drive. It works at BYU, but he's got to get down. But I do love the shout out because he's extremely impressive. He powers through arm tackles. The reason he stayed upright is because no one's forced him to drive downhill. He's so strong. It hasn't mattered yet. So as long as he can, keep improving, and they're going to have to lean on him with Retzlaff gone. Yeah. So, they don't have – Retzlaff was the heart and soul of that team last year. They're going to be looking for an identity. LJ Martin probably is that identity. They need to lean on the run. He's going to get a lot of carries, a lot of opportunity. And BYU's shown they can produce. Tyler Algier was a really good running back. It just so happened Bijan came in.
Yeah.
Sure. That can happen to anybody. So, but he was a very good NFL running back, and he still is. LJ Martin could definitely step into the NFL and be a contributor.
I like what you said about the identity, because that's a big reason why he's on my sleeper list, is because of that Retzlaff situation. I was like, all right, let's switch it up here. Put in LJ Martin, because I think it's going to be a different style of game for BYU, losing Retzlaff and having LJ Martin there as well. Now, our last running back here is actually going to be your guy here in Cincinnati's Evan Pryor. Just lost Corey Keener. Evan Pryor's coming in to be their top guy. 5'10", 198. Definitely a great prospect when you're looking at Cincinnati. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, so he came over from Ohio State after, he had a pretty solid freshman year there. And then he tore his ACL. And he came back. He wasn't quite the same in 23. Transferred over to Cincinnati, and last year 56 carries, 418 yards. That's 7.5 yards per carry. He had 6 touchdowns, and in that limited work, he also had 15 receptions for 181 yards and a touchdown. That's 12 yards of reception. That's pretty dang good for a running back as well.
Right.
So to me, Evan Pryor, what really stands out is his speed. He's electric when he has the ball in his hands. He bursts through. He reminds me a lot of another, Cincinnati running back in Jerome Ford.
Oh, yeah.
So, to me, this is a very similar story where you have a really fast guy who's versatile. He can, get downfield. He can catch the ball. Evan Pryor is just a really underrated player who I think is finally going to get his time to shine. He was a really highly regarded recruit. Ohio State just recruited over him. And especially when he's coming back from that injury, he came in and he was contending with Trevion Henderson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not an enviable spot. So
I love that you brought out Jerome Ford, because I think Jerome Ford was an underrated guy that had speed. I think Evan Pryor does the same. You brought up his pass catching. Yes, it was 15 receptions, I think you said?
Yeah,
it's still
18 or 15.
He is probably one of the better route running backs in the class. He is very, very smooth with his routes. He's very agile in his movement, very good with his hips. ACL could affect it there, but again, modern day medicine, ACL is not as impactful for it as it is the Achilles anymore. Like ACL, you can bounce back from that even as a running back. Again, so that displays solid vision. If he continues on this trajectory on what he's at, it could definitely make a big impact for him to definitely rise into possibly like a day 2. He has that home run speed. He has the solid vision. He has the pass catching ability. We talked about guys earlier that don't really display that pass catching ability. Evan Pryor could come in with Brendan Sorsby, I believe, is their quarterback. Go in there and really be a playmaker for them, especially a game changer to move the chains or really seal the deal in those final moments of the game as well. So I absolutely love that pick there. I think he's someone that you should keep an eye on for him. If not your Devy, he's definitely a C2C as well, but I think he's a good deep Devy dive for us as well. Now, going into our wide receivers, that was our 4 running backs. The wide receivers, we have 1 extra each, so 6 wide receivers here. Our first one, or my first one, I guess I should say, is going to be LSU wide receiver Barion Brown. Now, why is this sleeper? Because he's still falling in drafts. I get it. He's someone that could drop the ball. He wasn't as great at Kentucky. Didn't really have those breakouts here. But who was throwing to him at Kentucky? Brock Vandegrift? It's not about what he was doing. It's he is someone that needs a quarterback like Nussmeier. I think is going to be the wide receiver one for LSU. He's a solid route runner. He's someone that can eat underneath. He plays with aggression, though. He can go out there and be your X if you need that as well. So I absolutely think Barion Brown is going to be one of those guys that really steps up to that next level and moving still in the SEC, but now moving over to LSU from Kentucky. I think he's going to be one of the top guys we're talking about come draft time. Day one, he's got to have like a 1,300-yard season, which I don't necessarily see, but I definitely think he could be a day two type of prospects. What are your thoughts on Barion Brown?
Yeah, I mean, Barion Brown is definitely getting drafted. I think fourth round is his floor. And it's simply, I think he has a verified 4.21 40, like already.
Great. If he runs a 4.2, if he runs a 4.2 at the combine, people are going to draft him at 101. That would be absolutely insane.
Yeah, he's going to lose. People will lose their mind. Like I'm pretty sure it could be a 4.28, but I think it was like a 4.21 verified 40 time.
Yeah,
and so he's got electric speed, and he has such loose hips that he can fly open. He's a Xavier Worthy light, because the hands are definitely worse. But he brings something. He's probably the best returner in the entire class, and that's going to boost him up. Teams are going to want that no matter what. Like that's why I say fourth round is his floor. Yeah. So you're drafting a guy who fourth round is the floor. He's going to be on special teams. Teams will want to get him the ball and design packages. Right. So like your worst case scenarios, you have a guy who's probably getting 5 design touches a game as well as returning kicks. Right. Best case scenario, he breaks out. He learns, a little more nuance in his route running. His hands get a little bit better, and he could easily be a first-round wide receiver with that speed.
For sure.
So I think this is a great pick. He's definitely not getting drafted as a guy who has first-round potential.
All right, and I get it. The 2027 class is a heavy class, so I get those guys going to love him. But when we talk about like the 2026 potentials, it's very up in the air. I know a lot of people are Tyson, yourself included, as the one. Antonio Williams is recognizable as one of those top prospects, but it's not a solid stuck in. This is the number one wide receiver, so it's very open. Barion Brown can make that push for it. But another one that's an interesting pick here is going to be, we talked about the quarterback, or we did talk about the quarterback, excuse me. I was thinking Iowa. But Indiana's wide receiver, Elijah Sarratt. Now, Elijah Sarratt, when I'm watching this tape, he is not afraid to get physical, man. I think he is someone that at the line, if they're pressing him, he's like, all right, let's go. And he is not afraid to get physical. He displays solid stop-start acceleration, one of the best in the nation, I feel like, and very reliable when it comes to his hands. Definitely, when it comes to these wide receivers that we're talking about, I think Elijah Sarratt's like a locked-in day two. What are your thoughts on him?
No, so I don't see a lot of people talking about him, but the 6'2", 209, last year was 53 for 957 and 8. And I think PFF, I believe he was the highest graded receiver outside of Jeremiah Smith last season. So coming into this year, you watch the tape. He, as you said, he's physical. He gets open, and he's transferred 3 times, and to me, he's gone up a level every time. So it was. JMU, in 23. Now he's up at Indiana, balling out in the Big Ten.
Right.
And, he hasn't slowed down ever. Last year was actually his highest yards per catch out of any stop. Yeah. So, to me, Elijah Sarratt, he's so sure-handed. He's just a strong physical receiver who's productive everywhere he goes. He's going to be kind of the Trey Harris of next year's class.
Okay.
Where it's just
love it.
He's going off. He's just consistently going off. He's a steady Eddie. He's safe, and the team is going to fall in love with him in the second round. But
absolutely love that.
He's not getting drafted.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, he saw that year. I mean, it's startup Devy's. I mean, we did our 5th round, and I don't know if he was taken. He might have been, but he's definitely a deeper one too. But I think the upside is definitely there for when we're talking about these wide receivers. He, to me, is the safest bet to be valuable at the next level in NFL as well. Now, our next guy here is actually going to be Barion Brown's former teammate, and that is going to be another one that transferred out of Kentucky, Dane Key, who went to Nebraska. Now, the reason why I love him, Dane Key, I've said it multiple times, he's been my go-to since his freshman year. solid size, about 6'3", 6'4", about 220 or so. Just a great wide receiver that could stretch the field. But on top of that, he's not just a field stretcher. He's someone that actually displays good route running. Now, if people love Ted McMillan, go watch some Dane Key. Dane Key isn't necessarily doing the same type of one-handed snags that Chet was doing, but he does have them. And Dane Key does play with aggression. Dane Key, I feel, is a better route runner than what Chet could be. We just haven't seen it fully displayed. I hope that with this season with Dylan Raiola at the helm, he's going to be able to utilize a wide receiver like Dane Key, not only to stretch the field, but also to open up the middle or just to be the safety net there as well. I think that's what they wanted in Jamal Banks last year. It didn't happen. Dane Key steps into this role to be the X wide receiver, the wide receiver one for Nebraska. I'm super stoked about him. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Dane Key, as you said, I think the thing that stands out is at his size, he's a very good route runner. He's got excellent release packages. He's, really, he doesn't waste a lot of movement. So he just gets right to it. And to me, that, it really stands out because at his size, he shouldn't be as refined as he is. Right. So to me, I think, as you said, he's going to be a very good prospect. He's athletic. He's not the fastest guy, but he's athletic. He's got good bounce. And that all stands out. And Nebraska, he's got a chance to be the one. Raiola should, take a step up this year. And the sky's the ceiling. And Dane Key, I think, right now, he's probably a day 3 guy for me, but I could see him going into day 2 with a good, strong year. And I'm noticing now that 2 of your sleepers I just traded to you, so I see you.
I'll make you my moves here, man. That's what you do in the Devy leagues or C2C. You get your sleepers and make it happen. Yeah. No, day 2, like you said, day 3. I think he can sneak into the back of day 2. I wouldn't say he's a round 2 pick, but he could definitely be a late day round 3 pick for it as well. So absolutely love that. But I'm excited to see what he can do this season because I think the quarterback was a big issue there for him. Now, our next guy is another transfer who's actually transferred out of Oklahoma State. He's now Ole Miss. Like you brought up Trey Harris earlier. They're getting a guy that can do pretty well, in DeJon Stribling, now the Ole Miss wide receiver who's really good at route running, a good special teamer, I think. What are your thoughts on him, though, DeJon Stribling?
So Stribling he's definitely a little under the radar, and he's stepping into a role at Ole Miss where I think he could really – kind of take over. They have a little bit of an open room. They have some established guys, but Stribling is really athletic. He's a great after the catch. He gets going. He's got great hands, and he's very fast. And to me, this is the type of receiver that sort of all the tools are there.
Right.
Oh yeah, Chris. Yeah, Nebraska's Raiola should be much better, and if he's not, get Matt Rule out of there.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed.
No, so but Stribling is, to me, he's the kind of guy. He's going to test really well. He's going to play really well. He's stepping, but he is a 5th-year guy, so you don't have a great breakout age. He's been really up and down his whole career, but last year was good. 52 receptions, 882 yards. That's 17 a catch, 6 touchdowns. I mean, he's a good receiver who I think probably day 3. Just on the athletic profile, but I could see more. I could, and I'm a little worried the more I see is a Jonathan Mingo, for the record.
So I don't want you to be upset with me. I appreciate your friendship, so I don't want this to ruin it. But in my notes, he's a glorified Jalen Hyatt to me. I don't know if he's doing I just don't. I watched it, and again, I think he's a little bit better route runner. I think he's a solid special teamer, but I feel he's going to be better than Hyatt, but at the same time, I think he's the type of wide receiver that he might be a boomer bust. You're not going to get consistency from him. You're going to get a very solid game. That's going to be a 20-point, 22-point game from him, but then the next week you're going to get a 2-point game. So that's what worries me from it. Going into Ole Miss, again, the SEC team now, he's got an opportunity to be their one and be their top guy, especially being a 5th-year senior there. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do and if he could become that X for them and be the guy that takes over what Trey Harris's role is. Ole Miss is kind of in a rebuilding situation, so he's definitely going to be the leader in the locker room, so that could definitely help. But I need to see a little bit more. A lot of that tape I'm watching is just him really stretching the field, and if he's doing any kind of route running, it's nothing too aggressive. It's very limited, in my opinion. But I do see potential, but I saw potential in Jalen Hyatt too, and that backfired on me. I mean, you brought Mingo as well, same. So it's he's someone that deep sleeper for sure. Like deep Devy, I would take a shot on him. But I love him in C2C. But I don't know if you're getting much value out of it when you get him though. Is my thought. So
Yeah,
but
yeah, you're not ruining, you're not hurting me. That's definitely the case, and this is why he's in the sleeper territory. You're 100% right. His route running, not so good. That's why I brought up Jonathan Mingo. It's choppy. He's athletic, and that takes
he's fast,
very far. He's very fast. He's got good hands, but so did Jalen Hyatt.
Right.
So you're spot on there, but. Why don't we get to our next guy? Keep him on your watch list, people. Keep him on the watch list.
Our next guy here is actually going to be someone that transferred as well. We have a lot of transfers, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But it's going to be out of West Virginia, Hudson Clement, who transferred over to Illinois. Now, Hudson Clement was actually a walk-on. And I actually remember seeing the story where he had a game. I think it was like over 200 yards, if I'm not mistaken. It was definitely over 150. But he had this big game where he had like 200 yards, like 2 or 3 touchdowns. And then in the locker room, there's a video. The coaches come out, and he's like, hey, we just want to let you know we're offering you a full scholarship. Now, that's absolutely phenomenal. Like, claps him, props to you, bro. I'm happy for that. But then he goes to transfer to Illinois. So that's, it's like, all right, West Virginia, appreciate you doing that, but now I'm going to take my talent elsewhere. It's right, though, man. Go do what you got to do. Clement, I think is someone that is underrated. He is someone that is solid to stretch the field. He was about his speed, just their field stretcher. But then you start seeing them saying, all right, now that you're on the team officially, you got that full ride, we're going to use you elsewhere. We're actually going to make some plays where you have to run some routes. And then you start to see, okay, this kid knows what he's doing. He's actually a solid route runner, a solid playmaker. He actually can be moved around the field. And I think Illinois could definitely utilize that a lot more, just a lot of his talent and his strengths to just make him even better than what he showed at West Virginia. So I'm stoked to see what he can do. He is definitely one of your deeper sleepers, like I'm talking past 10 rounds or so. But I think he's someone to keep an eye on at the very least, because come draft time, he might be the guy you need to take because he's available. What are your thoughts on Hudson Clement?
Yeah, to start, he's a great C2C asset because he's going to be productive. Illinois needs a wide receiver like this, and he fits right in. He's very like Jacoby Myers to me.
Fair.
Where he's, he can move all over. He's going to be reliable. You're never going to be like, oh, this is the best wide receiver on the field.
Right.
And he somehow is.
Sure.
So that's sort of like what I see with Hudson Clement is, the reason that he was unrecruited, he's not a natural athlete, but he moves well.
Right.
And that to me, like, it will translate. He's going to keep going. You hope to see the rise continue, because it is a great story. But as you said, definitely a deep sleeper. He's got to prove it. I think, right now we're looking late day 3, but I could see him going all the way up into day 2 with a good year, because he's got all the savviness. He just needs to show he can continue to do that against higher competition.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I love that you said you're not going to expect him to be the top wide receiver, but I think he has the tools and mechanics to definitely be one of them. But again, it'll also be on team dependent. Like what Jacoby Myers is in LA, they know how to use him properly and make him that type of solid wide receiver. But if you put Jacoby Myers elsewhere, like put him in New England, I don't think he's the one. Like I don't think he's as solid there.
I don't know, but he was when he was there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I think he's definitely been better in Oakland in Las Vegas, Yeah. But again, that's based on just the coaching using on him. So I think Hudson Clement could definitely be a solid wide receiver, in being someone that you might want to take a shot on him. I'm not afraid to take a shot on him on deeper leagues for it. Now,
you want me to take this one?
Yeah, I really don't want to talk about this. We're going to talk about our last guy here. I'll let Spencer talk about him here, but this is it's a guy from North Dakota State. It's Bryce Lance.
So this is your favorite team, right? This is your
for those that don't know, I went to Sam Houston State. North Dakota State beat us, I believe, 3 times in the SCS championship. So I'm not a North Dakota State fan, but let's talk about Bryce Lance. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Bryce Lance he's a third-year junior, like true junior at North Dakota State, 6'3", 204. Last year, 75 for 1,053, 17 touchdowns, and he also added 5 carries for 29 yards in the touchdown. So absolutely electric statistical season. You might say, wait a minute, Bryce Lance, North Dakota State, could it be? It is, in fact, Trey Lance's younger brother.
So it's worrisome, right?
No, it's not. It's terrific. It's great. Him and Trey Lance are going to hook up, run the nation.
There you go. The breakout season's coming for Trey Lance when he gets his brother.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he needed the whole time. But what you see is, Bryce Lance isn't just a statistical anomaly. He's extremely athletic. He's got great bounce, good body control. He's fast. He's very similar to another North Dakota State wide receiver in Christian Watson. Hopefully he stays healthier than Watson has, but that type of raw athlete who really, I think Lance is better than Watson is in terms of technical route running. He's not, nobody is the freak Christian Watson was when he was healthy. Christian Watson was a super freak athlete, but Lance is still a very good athlete. I don't think he's quite talked about enough. He's got, he has an electric whip route. He can really run a post route, and his corner route, he gets up and gets the ball. So I think that he's going to have another really good year. I think he's going to take another step forward, and I could see a day 2 pick here, especially when he blows up the combine with electric numbers. And then, when you see Trey Lance throwing bombs to him at the pro day.
For sure. Now, you did tell me when you're like, go watch his tape, you said he does have better tape than Watson. And, it's like, what's that mean, to me? No. Yeah. But he actually, when I watched, I'm glad you brought him up to me. Cam Miller, I think, was his quarterback last year who got drafted, right, to Las Vegas, actually. He is a prototypical X wide receiver. He actually displays very fluid motion, ability to stretch the field. We see him here is going up and snagging the ball. Solid awareness too, to just make him a nice red zone threat. When I say awareness, he knows where he's at on the field. And you say that as like, duh, he's a football player. A lot of them don't really, you watch it, they're like, they really don't, because they're stepping outside the bounds. Like, he knows where his feet need to be to make sure he's bringing the ball down and making those catches happen. So he's someone that could be the guy in the corner of the end zone, and he's going to get the ball in. Now, in college, it's 1 foot down, right? In the NFL, it's 2, so that could be different. But he does have remarkable hit motion, reliable hands, and really could become that riser. And you brought up Christian Watson. I think he's a better wide receiver than what Christian Watson was. So I don't want to say it, but he's a good wide receiver. North Dakota State has a good wide receiver in Bryce Lance. But no, definitely someone you can keep an eye on, especially because he's FCS. You might be able to get him as a steal when it comes to that time, because, a lot of people aren't necessarily taking your FCS type of players. So he could definitely be that guy that potentially rises into a day 2 type of pick just based on his ability to have it. Now, he lost his quarterback, so we need to see it a lot more this year, but it's definitely possible for him to take that jump as well.
Yeah.
Now, that is really all we have for our Devy sleepers in today's episode. Great episode. As we mentioned, we have our news segment, Devy News, so we'll bring up some highlights for the past week. We do it every Wednesday, what we're doing there and how it's going to be happening. Next week, we have a very special guest joining us, so excited to have that going. For everyone in the FFU, for our guys who are the Dynasty Dogs, Rich and Mike, for our guy at Adjusted Ranks, Jeremy, for our guy Jesse behind the scenes. We are the Devy Planet. I'm S.C. Romero. That's my co-host Spencer. We have one last comment. Appreciate you, Chris, for joining in. Devy Dojo. Shout out to guys at Devy Dojo, but the Devy Dual League is happening, and the FFU, the Devy Planet, is going to take that. But shout out to guys at the Devy Dojo. Make sure you're watching their show. I believe it's on the FSA and Grindhouse. So make sure you're watching that as well. But until next time, we are the Devy Planet. I'm SC. That's Spencer. Take it easy.
FFU. FFU.